You clicked on this video for a reason. Maybe your doctor told you to cut out bread entirely. Maybe you've been trying to follow that advice, and it's making every single meal feel like a punishment. Or maybe you've already given up on the idea that you can ever enjoy a piece of toast again without feeling guilty, without watching your blood sugar spike, without undoing everything you've worked so hard to maintain. If that sounds familiar, I want you to stay right here, because what I'm about to share with you today could genuinely change the way you eat and the way you feel about eating for the rest of your life. Here's the truth that most people with diabetes or pre-diabetes never hear from their doctor. Bread is not the enemy. The wrong bread is the enemy. And there is a massive difference between those two things. A difference that, once you understand it, will make you look at every grocery store aisle, every sandwich, every breakfast plate in a completely new way. Now I want to ask you something, and I want you to hold on to this question until the very end of this video, because the answer is going to surprise you. Out of the 5 breads we're going to talk about today, one of them has been shown in clinical research to actually improve insulin sensitivity over time. Not just avoid spiking blood sugar, but actively help your body respond to insulin better. Do you know which one it is? I'll tell you before we're done. But first, let's talk about everything leading up to that answer, because the context matters enormously. I've spent an extensive amount of time going through nutritional research, peer-reviewed studies, and dietary guidelines specifically focused on adults over 60 with metabolic concerns. I did not put this video together based on trends or what's popular online. I built it from the science, and I translated that science into something you can actually use at the grocery store, at the breakfast table, and every time you make a decision about what to put on your plate. That's my commitment to you with every single video on this channel. Before we dive in, if you're finding this useful, take 2 seconds right now, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video, and give this a thumbs up. It genuinely helps more people like you find this content. And drop a comment below, tell me what country you're watching from. I'd love to know where our community is tuning in from around the world. Hold on a second. Before we go any further, I've put something together for you. It's called the Glucose Paradox. It's a free guide on blood sugar and diabetes, and you can grab it for free through the link in the description. I'm telling you this now because I want you to finish this video with a concrete tool in your hands. To get it right away, just click the link in the description, head over to my site, and drop your email. You'll receive the guide in your inbox a few minutes later. But I don't want to take up any more of your time. Let's get back to the video. Let's start at the beginning, because understanding why some breads hurt you and others help you requires understanding one fundamental process: what happens inside your body the moment you swallow a bite of bread. When you eat any carbohydrate bread, rice, pasta, fruit, your digestive system breaks it down into glucose, which enters your bloodstream. Your pancreas then releases insulin, a hormone whose job is to take that glucose out of the blood and shuttle it into your cells, where it gets used for energy. In a healthy body, this system works beautifully. Glucose rises, insulin responds, glucose comes back down. Smooth, efficient, balanced. But when you have type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes, the system is disrupted. Either your pancreas isn't producing enough insulin, or your cells have become resistant to the insulin that's being produced, meaning insulin knocks on the door, but the cells don't answer. The result is that glucose builds up in the blood instead of being absorbed. Over time, chronically elevated blood sugar damages blood vessels, nerves, kidneys, and eyes. That's the long-term danger. That's what you're managing every single day. Now here's where bread fits into all of this. White bread, the soft, fluffy, highly processed kind that lines the shelves of virtually every grocery store in America, is made from refined wheat flour. Refined means stripped. The bran and the germ of the wheat kernel have been removed, leaving only the starchy endosperm. What you're left with is a product that your digestive enzymes can break down extremely rapidly. We're talking about blood sugar rising within 15 to 30 minutes of eating it. For someone with diabetes, that's not a meal. That's a metabolic event. The fiber is what makes all the difference. Fiber, particularly soluble fiber, does something remarkable inside your digestive tract. It slows everything down. It creates a kind of physical barrier that prevents digestive enzymes from accessing starch as quickly, which means glucose enters your bloodstream more gradually. Instead of a sharp spike, you get a gentle, manageable rise. That's exactly what you want. And certain types of bread, the 5 we're about to go through, are built around that principle. The first bread on our list is 100% whole wheat bread. And I want to be precise here, because this is where most people get fooled at the store. A loaf can be brown, it can say wheat bread on the front, it can look hearty and healthy, but if you flip it over, and the first ingredient on the label reads enriched wheat flour or unbleached wheat flour, that is still refined flour. The word enriched means they stripped the grain and then added back a handful of synthetic vitamins to make up for what was lost. It is not whole grain, it is not what you want. What you want is a loaf where the very first ingredient says 100% whole wheat flour or whole grain wheat flour. That language tells you that the entire kernel, the bran, the germ and the endosperm is present, and that matters enormously because the bran is where the fiber lives, the germ is where the healthy fats, the B vitamins and the antioxidants are concentrated. When you keep the whole kernel intact, you preserve the biological complexity of the grain, and that complexity is what moderates your blood sugar response. In practical terms, switching from white bread to a verified 100% whole wheat bread can reduce the glycemic impact of your meal significantly. Studies have shown that whole grain consumption is associated with better long-term blood sugar control in people with type 2 diabetes, and that even modest increases in dietary fiber intake can improve HbA1c levels. That's the 3-month average blood sugar measurement your doctor checks over time. This is not a marginal benefit. This is foundational dietary science. The second bread I want to talk about is one that many people haven't heard of, but that nutritional researchers have been paying close attention to for years: sprouted grain bread. You've probably seen this at health food stores, brands like Ezekiel bread. These loaves are usually denser, chewier, and they need to be kept refrigerated because they don't contain the preservatives that conventional bread does. They're also, from a blood sugar management standpoint, genuinely impressive. Here's what makes sprouted grain bread different. Instead of grinding dry wheat kernels into flour, manufacturers allow the grains to germinate, to begin the process of becoming a plant. This sprouting process triggers enzymatic activity inside the grain that begins breaking down starch before the bread is even baked. The result is a product with a lower starch content and a higher nutrient bioavailability than traditional whole wheat bread. The proteins become easier to digest. Certain anti-nutrients that can interfere with mineral absorption are reduced. And the glycemic index, the measure of how rapidly a food raises blood sugar, drops meaningfully compared to standard bread, even whole wheat. What's particularly interesting about sprouted grain bread for people over 60 is the protein content. As we age, maintaining muscle mass becomes increasingly important for mobility, independence, and metabolic health. Muscle tissue is one of the primary sites where insulin-mediated glucose uptake occurs, meaning more muscle helps your body manage blood sugar more effectively. Sprouted grain breads tend to have a more favorable amino acid profile than conventional bread, making them a slightly better protein source alongside their blood sugar benefits. The third bread on our list is rye bread, specifically the dense dark varieties, not the light rye or the marble rye you might find at a deli. I'm talking about traditional European-style rye, the kind that's heavy in your hand, deeply flavorful, and sometimes sold as pumpernickel. This bread has a lower glycemic index than virtually any wheat-based bread on the market, and the reason comes down to the unique fiber structure of the rye kernel. Rye contains a particularly high concentration of a type of fiber called arabenoxylin. This fiber is viscous, meaning it forms a thick, gel-like substance when it comes into contact with water in your digestive system. That gel coats the walls of your intestines and physically slows the absorption of glucose into your bloodstream. But the benefits go further than just slowing digestion. Research published in nutrition journals has shown that regular rye consumption is associated with improved insulin sensitivity, meaning your cells become more responsive to insulin over time. Your body needs to produce less insulin to achieve the same glucose clearing effect. For someone managing type 2 diabetes, or trying to prevent its progression, that is an enormously valuable outcome. Rye bread also tends to produce a stronger and longer-lasting sense of satiety than wheat bread. Studies measuring subjective hunger after meals have consistently found that people who eat rye bread feel full for significantly longer than those who eat an equivalent caloric amount of wheat bread. For anyone who struggles with snacking between meals or with the late afternoon hunger that can lead to poor food choices, rye bread is a genuinely powerful ally. Now, and here's what I promised you earlier. Rye bread, particularly the dense dark varieties consumed regularly, is the bread most strongly associated in research literature with measurable improvements in insulin sensitivity over time. Not just neutral for blood sugar, not just lower glycemic, actively beneficial for the underlying mechanism of insulin resistance. That is the answer to the question I asked you at the beginning. And it is one of the most underappreciated nutritional facts in the management of type 2 diabetes. The fourth bread on our list is oat bread, real oat bread, and this is another situation where label reading is critical. Many breads marketed as oat bread contain only a small percentage of oats, often as decoration on the crust, while the bulk of the loaf is still made from refined wheat flour. What you want to see is whole oats or whole oat flour listed as one of the first two ingredients. If oats appear fifth or sixth on the ingredient list, after multiple forms of wheat flour, the oat content is too low to provide meaningful benefit. When oats are genuinely the primary ingredient, you get access to one of the most extensively studied compounds in nutrition science, beta-glucan. Beta-glucan is a soluble fiber that has been so consistently shown to lower post-meal blood glucose and insulin responses that the FDA has approved a specific health claim for it. When you eat beta-glucan, it dissolves in the water present in your gut and forms a thick, viscous gel, similar in concept to what arabinoxylan does in rye, but with its own distinct properties. This gel slows gastric emptying, meaning food leaves your stomach more slowly, which spreads the absorption of glucose over a longer period. The result is a flatter, more controlled blood sugar curve after eating. Beta-glucan has also been studied for its effects on cholesterol. For people with diabetes, cardiovascular disease is a serious comorbid concern. The two conditions frequently travel together, and heart disease remains the leading cause of death among adults with type 2 diabetes. The same fiber that moderates your blood sugar is also reducing LDL cholesterol levels, reducing arterial inflammation, and supporting the kind of cardiovascular health that becomes increasingly precious as we get older. An oat-based bread that genuinely delivers on its fiber content is not just a blood sugar choice, it is a whole-body health investment. The fifth and final bread on our list is flaxseed bread. This one is perhaps the most specialized of the five, and also potentially the most powerful for people who need to manage both blood sugar and overall carbohydrate intake carefully. Flax seeds are extraordinary nutritional packages. They are exceptionally high in fiber, both soluble and insoluble. They contain lignans, which are plant compounds with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, and they are one of the richest plant-based sources of omega-3 fatty acids, specifically alpha-linolenic acid. For someone with diabetes, the omega-3 content of flaxseed bread matters for several reasons. Chronic low-grade inflammation is deeply intertwined with insulin resistance. Inflammatory signals disrupt the communication between insulin and its receptors on cell surfaces. Omega-3 fatty acids are among the most well-documented anti-inflammatory nutrients in the human diet. Regular consumption has been associated with reduced inflammatory markers, improved endothelial function, that's the health of the inner lining of your blood vessels, and better overall metabolic profiles in people with type 2 diabetes. From a pure carbohydrate standpoint, flaxseed bread also tends to have one of the lowest net carb counts of any commercially available bread. Net carbs are calculated by subtracting fiber from total carbohydrates. Because fiber does not raise blood sugar, it's simply not absorbed the same way. A slice of high-quality flaxseed bread can have as few as 4 or 5 grams of net carbs, compared to 13 or more in a standard whole wheat slice. For anyone following a lower carbohydrate approach to diabetes management, flaxseed bread allows you to maintain the ritual and satisfaction of having bread with sandwiches, with soup, at breakfast without the glycemic cost. Now, knowing which breads to buy is only half the equation. The other half is how you eat them. Because even the best bread on this list, eaten the wrong way, can cause problems. The single most important rule is portion control. 1 to 2 slices per meal is the appropriate serving size for most people with diabetes. Not 4, not 6, not an entire dinner roll basket at a restaurant followed by a sandwich at lunch. 1 to 2 slices, chosen thoughtfully, eaten with intention. The second rule is combination. Bread should never be eaten alone. When you eat bread by itself, even excellent, fiber-rich whole-grain bread, the carbohydrates are still the primary driver of your meal's glycemic effect. But when you pair that bread with protein, healthy fat, and non-starchy vegetables, you fundamentally change the metabolic equation. Protein slows digestion. Fat slows gastric emptying. Fiber from vegetables adds additional buffering. Together, these macronutrients work as a team to blunt the glucose response that even good bread would cause on its own. Practical examples of smart bread combinations include 2 slices of sprouted grain bread with sliced turkey, avocado, and leafy greens. 1 slice of dark rye bread topped with smoked salmon, cream cheese, and cucumber. 1 slice of oat bread with 2 poached eggs and a side of sautéed spinach. 1 slice of flaxseed bread spread with almond butter alongside a small handful of walnuts and a boiled egg. These are not deprivation meals. These are satisfying, nutritionally complete combinations that give you the pleasure of bread without the blood sugar consequence. The third rule, and this one requires your attention at the grocery store, is label literacy. The food industry has become extraordinarily skilled at making products appear healthy without actually being healthy. A bread can be dark brown, covered in seeds, labeled as multigrain, 7-grain, or ancient grain, and still have enriched wheat flour as its primary ingredient. That means it's still predominantly white bread in disguise. The darkness often comes from added molasses or caramel coloring. The seeds on top are nutritional decoration, not structural ingredients. When you pick up a loaf of bread, turn it over, find the ingredient list. Look at the first ingredient. It should be a whole grain flour, whole wheat, whole rye, whole oat, or sprouted whole grain. If the first word is enriched, put it back. If you see wheat flour without the word whole in front of it, that's refined flour. The marketing on the front of the package is irrelevant. The ingredient list on the back is the truth. One more thing I want to address, because I hear this concern often from people in the community. The fear that allowing any bread into a diabetic diet is a form of failure or weakness. That real diabetes management means total elimination of everything enjoyable. I want to push back on that idea directly, because it is not only untrue, it is counterproductive. When people feel completely deprived, they don't maintain their diets. They white-knuckle it for a period of time, and then they break, often in dramatic fashion, reaching for the worst possible options in large quantities, late at night, when their resolve is lowest. The all-or-nothing approach to bread leads to the exact blood sugar chaos that it was supposed to prevent. Strategic inclusion of the right bread, in the right amount, with the right companions on the plate, actually supports better long-term dietary consistency. It removes the psychological pressure. It makes the diet sustainable. And sustainability, far more than short-term perfection, is what determines long-term health outcomes. The 5 breads we covered today, 100% whole wheat, sprouted grain, dark rye, oat bread, and flaxseed bread, are not compromises. They are not consolation prizes for people who can't have the real thing. They are genuinely beneficial foods backed by research that belong in a thoughtful, medically sound approach to eating with diabetes. Used correctly, they can help you maintain the pleasure and normalcy of shared meals, of breakfast rituals, of the simple satisfaction of a well-made sandwich, without sacrificing control of your blood sugar. You deserve to eat well. You deserve to enjoy food. And you have more options than you've been told. And hey, if you made it all the way here, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Hit the like button to let me know this was worth your time. And leave a comment below. Tell me what country you're watching from. Seriously, I read every single one, and it means a lot to see how far this community reaches. You know what the problem is with diabetes and high blood sugar? Most people find out way too late. and by the time they do, they have no idea where to even start. That's why I decided to create a free guide. It's called the Glucose Paradox, and inside, you'll find everything you wish you'd known sooner. I'll explain how blood sugar actually works, and why your body sometimes reacts the exact opposite way you'd expect. That's why it's called a paradox. I've also included concrete habits you can start changing right now, even if you know zero about nutrition or medicine. It's free. You can download it in a second, and it might be the single most useful thing you do for your health today. Just click the link in the description to head to the site, drop your email, and get the guide sent straight to you. Don't put this off.